fatwa against the development of a nuclear weapon.
Can you come back to that 1 second? Let me finish
yeah,
these,
you
and that's
bet.
okay. If left unchecked, do you think Iran would have the ability to develop missiles capable of reaching the United States?
Yes.
Did Israel force the U.S.'s hand and make us take action, as some have claimed?
No.
Director Gabbard, do you agree with the CIA director's assessment on that last question in
Yes.
particular? Great. Do you want to go back to that point you want to make?
Yeah, much has been made by some about a fatwa against the development of nuclear weapons. Notwithstanding the fatwa, what we know, and the intelligence community is in agreement on this, is that Iran possesses at least 440 kilograms of uranium enriched to weapons grade 60%, which doesn't have a civilian use. The only use for that would be the development of nuclear weapons.
Thank you, Director. Director Gabbard, I want to raise serious concerns about your recent hiring of Dan Caldwell, a strict critic of U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, who's argued that U.S. forces in the Middle East are, quote, more of a burden than a benefit, has claimed that Iran's nuclear program does not pose a risk to America, despite the IC's assessment to the contrary. Dan has also said that our relationship with Israel has no benefit to American national security. This follows the resignation of Joe Kent this week, a senior ally of yours who is a conspiracy theorizing white supremacist with a tattoo Panzer referring to Nazi tanks. He has made known his backwards opinions of Israel in his resignation letter, scapegoating them for U.S. intervention in Iran and Iraq. Director, what role do you anticipate Mr. Caldwell playing in shaping intelligence assessments or internal discussions related to Iran and Israel? And can you guarantee to this committee that no individuals in your leadership are undermining the objectivity of intelligence at this critical moment?
Sir, my understanding is one of my elements sought to hire Dan Caldwell months ago for a purely administrative role that would not have any position over the intelligence analysis or assessments on any topic.
Thank you. Director, as you know, the Iranian regime has been responsible for the deaths that we've talked about of scores of Americans since coming to power in '79. Iran and its terror proxies must be crushed. I've been clear on that point in the last weeks and throughout my time in Congress. I supported the decisive action taken on February 28th to remove key regime leaders and degrade Iran's ballistic missile and naval capabilities. However, I think it's really important the administration make its goals clear to Congress and to the American people. Director, were you in a meeting to discuss a possible strike on Iran?
Congressman, there were several meetings that were held in advance. I'm sure I was in at least some of them.
Did the intelligence community brief the president on the potential impacts the conflict could have on global supply chains and on oil and gas prices prior to the outbreak of hostilities? Were you in a meeting? Were you in any meetings where that came up?
Yes, that is the intelligence community's assessments, and those were provided.
Director, did the IC, Director Radcliffe, if I can ask this to you, did the IC brief the president on who would succeed the supreme leader if he was killed and the likelihood that a replacement would be a hardliner?
Was the president, say it again, was the president...
Did the IC brief the president on who would succeed the supreme leader if he was killed and the likelihood that a replacement would be a hardliner or could be a hardliner?
So to be clear, the president's objectives with respect to Operation Epic Fury did not include regime change. That may be different from what Israel's objectives were, but yes, the president was briefed in the event that Supreme Leader...
Good. That's great. Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut you off. I just have 20 seconds. Director Patel, does Iran pose a threat to the homeland, and what specific steps are you taking to detect, prevent, and disrupt terrorist plots targeting Americans at home?
Iran, as the world's largest state sponsor of terror, does pose a continuing threat to the homeland. And just last year, our Iran Threat Mission Center housed in the FBI, our fusion cell, saw a 43% increase in Iranian spy actors willing to steal our information and attack our citizens. So that's just one example, sir.
Thank you. I yield.
Dr. Jackson. Good morning. First off, I want to say thank you all for your time today, and thank you for our service to our country. Much appreciated. I thank the chairman for his opening remarks on anomalous health incidents, AHI. As many of you are aware, one of my primary responsibilities in this particular committee, I am the subcommittee chairman of Oversight and Investigations, where the investigation of AHI is and has been a central oversight effort. And so I am going to ask a quick question about this. Director Ratcliffe, during the Biden administration, the CIA very poorly, in my opinion, handled this issue. Since then, a CIA doctor has provided perjured testimony under oath and obstructed our congressional investigation. A quick question for you. Do you affirm that the CIA personnel are under no direction to make false statements to Congress in order to conceal CIA equities or activities related to the handling of AHI during the Biden administration?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I want to ask Mr. Patel, I got a question for you here. As a member of this committee, I also have a regional responsibility that includes Africa. I'm very concerned about the radical Islamic terror threat that exists there and is growing by the day. Whether it's al-Qaeda-affiliated groups such as JNMI, AQIM, Al-Shabaab, or ISIS-inspired groups such as ISIS West Africa, ISIS Sahel, ISIS Somalia, or Boko Haram. These are radical, dangerous groups that want to kill Americans. After 4 years of an open border during the Biden administration, where we know countless individuals with terror ties, many to these groups, cross our southern border, and at a time when we are actively engaged with the largest state sponsor of radical jihadi terror, can you confirm that the threat to the American people in this setting is much higher due to the Democrats' current defunding of the Department of Homeland Security?
As I highlighted earlier, Congressman, the FBI works hand in glove with the Department of Homeland Security and our 59 established Homeland Security task forces around the country. And those officers are now going 1 month without pay, but they're still showing up to work. But yes, funding would absolutely help us protect the homeland.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One more question. Anyone that feels inclined can answer this. But according to the Council on Foreign Relations, another Africa-related question, 51% of global terrorism-related deaths occurred in Africa's Sahel region, including the Lake Chad Basin. Does the intelligence community assess that Boko Haram, ISIS West Africa, and other terrorist groups operating in the Lake Chad Basin are a threat to the U.S. interest, whether it's here in the homeland or regional U.S. interest? If so, how does this lack of counterterrorism cooperation that we're currently experiencing with the allied states of the Sahel, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso impact that? And tied to that, how does the rise of alternative security forces such as Russia's Wagner Group or now Africa Corps, how has that impacted our counterterrorism efforts in the region?
Congressman, the continued rise of these Islamist terrorist groups, as you've pointed out, in Africa, West Africa, and around the world continues to be a serious concern and major focus of the intelligence community. The challenges within the region are very complex because they have to do with governance challenges in many of these countries. They have to do with economic challenges as well as external influences, both with funding and equipping of these terrorist organizations. So yes, it has made our counterterrorism, longstanding counterterrorism efforts in these regions, as well as those of our allies in this fight, such as the French and other countries, far more difficult because of the very real threat within that region to U.S. persons. If we are not able, if the Department of War is not able to coordinate with and get the support of the governments of these countries in order to tackle this terrorist threat, then it's not a safe or operable environment for them to continue that fight.
Thank you. And the assumption I'm working off of, too, is that the Russian influence via Wagner or Africa Corps has made it very difficult for us to develop those relationships and get those agreements so that we can continue to, make sure that this is not being brought home to the homeland. Is that correct?
That is a factor of many.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I yield back.
Ms. Houlihan.
Thank you. My question is basically starting with some HR questions, and they're first for Director Patel. If you could help me a little bit understand, I come out of the military family as well, but I don't know very much about the FBI's HR process or the growing up of an FBI expert. Could you help me understand how long it takes for a senior counterintelligence expert, especially one maybe focused on a very narrow threat, to be developed? How many years, I guess, would be my question.
Thank you, Congresswoman. That varies. Sometimes right out of Quantico, new agent trainees are placed on the counterintelligence mission set, and some people come in from the fraud section, so the answer varies. It could take a couple months to a couple years.
And the next question is, when a person comes up in your system in the military, it was always the needs of the Navy or the needs of the Air Force. It was never the needs of the airman or the soldier or the sailor in terms of prioritizing our readiness, in terms of making sure that we met the mission. Is the FBI similar?
It is similar, ma'am. It's a dynamic threat landscape, so we flux and surge based on the CI/CT cyber threats and other threats to the Homeland, and Violent Crime Mission has seen a surge as well.
So my specific question is that there was a report that came out in February from CNN that the FBI had let go or fired dozens of agents and staff members from a counterintelligence unit tasked with monitoring Iran. And apparently the reason, at least reported in the press, was that these individuals had been involved in the investigation of classified document handling from President Trump at Mar-a-Lago, and that this was the reason why they were summarily let go. First of all, are you aware of those firings, and do you concur with the rationale or reason for those firings?
I'm aware of that, and I know there's a pendency of litigation, so I'm not able to comment on them.
Did you yourself order those firings?
The FBI, every time there is someone who violates their code of conduct or ethical standard, conducts an internal investigation with the careers there, and they present a decision point to me. The Iranian Threat Mission Center has seen an increase of 43% in arrests for Iranian spy actors. So the Iranian Threat Mission Center has never been stronger.
So I'm asking about whether those people were fired because they were involved in the investigation of the document handling by President Trump, not for any behavior issues. Is that your understanding as well?
Again, ma'am, I can't comment on them because those are in pending litigation.
I guess I'm a little stymied here, Director, because it feels as though literally when there was a possible pending war, I'm outside of this intelligence circle in many ways, even though I serve on the Intelligence Committee. You collectively must have been aware when these firings happened that there was a meaningful chance that the U.S. might be engaged with a war in Iran. And having these very expert, super qualified folks summarily dismissed at this time, it just feels like an odd choice in timing. Were you aware at the time that this was going down, that this may end up weakening the mission and the readiness of that group?
The mission, as I stated, has never been stronger when you see a 43% increase in counterintelligence arrests and 21% increase in cyber arrests against the Iranian Threat Mission Center. My focus is on providing the American people the strongest FBI as possible. I don't work on timelines. I work on evidence that's presented to me.
I guess my concern is that it feels as though, and I very much honor the tone and tenor of this hearing, that this is about making sure that that we depoliticize what is the most important thing that we all do, which is keep us safe. And it feels as though this issue is a political issue, and I just am worried that we are taking really good, really qualified people and picking fights with one another across party lines, rather than making sure that we protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe. With the remainder of my time, Director Gabbard, I have a question regarding the fact that the Secretary of the Treasury loosened restrictions this week on Russian oil exports, and now the Russians are able to sell oil again. Did the IC assess that clearing the way for increased Russian oil sales would benefit Moscow, possibly?
I don't believe there's been a formal IC assessment on this topic yet, as it is underway.
So I would highly encourage that, because it feels as though by easing these sanctions, we are directly providing the Kremlin with revenue, the revenue that will be used directly to kill Ukrainian soldiers, and an increased likelihood that Putin will be successful in his war with Ukraine. I thank you for your time, and I yield.
Ms. Wagner.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank our witnesses for being with us today. As we sit here in Washington, our armed forces and our intelligence assets are engaged in conflict with the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, Iran. A radical, ruthless, and murderous regime that has killed and maimed thousands of United States troops and citizens over the past 50 years. CIA Director Ratcliffe, can you elaborate for the American people on the threat that Iran posed to our American personnel in the region prior to Operation Epic Fury? To the extent you can in open hearing.
Sure, Congresswoman, happy to address that. I think is well documented, and as you've encapsulated, Iran has been a constant threat for the last 47 years. Hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans killed, certainly thousands of Americans maimed as a result of activities of Iran and its IRGC over the years. But particularly, no cessation with respect to the threats to U.S. interests and forces in the region, not just from Iran, but from its proxies, from Iraqi militia groups like Kataib Hezbollah, Lebanese Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, all of these proxies, if you will, of the Iranian regime, funded by the Iranian regime, committing assaults and attacks on American interests persistently.
So they did pose
Absolutely.
an absolute threat.
A constant and immediate threat at all times.
Thank you. General Adams, as Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, can you inform the American people about the threat our armed forces have eliminated thus far?
Yes, ma'am. Representative Wagner, thanks for the question, and I will like to go in detail. I'm going to cover a little bit here. We will be able to cover more detail in the classified session. But the goals that the President has set out and that have been accomplished and executed by the Central Command were aligned along the DNI's discussion earlier. One, eliminate their ability to power project. And that was inclusive of ballistic missiles, but it also includes their UASs. And so we have been very effective. We can talk about specific numbers in the closed session.
Okay.
Their ability to reproduce both missiles and UASs we've been very effective. And you can tell from the news, in fact, the chairman talked about it this morning, we have sunk their Navy. And so those specific objectives have been very well accomplished and will go into great detail in the closed.
General Hartman, as Acting Director of the National Security Agency, can you explain how weakening the Iranian regime is impacting the availability of resources to our adversaries like China? Mike, please.
Hey, thanks for the question. Obviously not able to go into any classified discussion here, but certainly weakening the regime and weakening the collaboration between Iran, China, Russia, other adversaries has a global effect of making the world safer.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for all your insights, and thank you for keeping our troops and our American people safe. As you know, I chair the first ever subcommittee on open source intelligence. Over the past year, our subcommittee has been working tirelessly to ensure the intelligence community is leveraging the vast amount of commercially available information to the highest degree of efficiency and cost effectiveness. Director Ratcliffe, as the CIA is the functional manager of open source intelligence, does the CIA know which data has been acquired across all agencies within the IC?
Thanks for the question, Congresswoman. As you know, the CIA's open source enterprise is driving the open source collection across the entire IC in support of the administration's top priorities. Two of those priorities I've already talked about: counter-narcotics and threats from adversaries, use of emerging technologies. Those collections, as a result of our open source, are up 70% and 40 or 45% collectively. The CIA does lead the IC in pioneering new uses of AI to extract insights from the vast amounts of open source data that are there that we then share with analysts, warfighters, everyone across the IC.
I thank you. My time has expired. I have a lot more questions dealing with open source that we will do in closed session. So I thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Before I recognize Mr. Gomez, I want to make sure that all members have had an opportunity to vote because they are prepared to close that vote on the floor. If you haven't, please go do so at this time. Looks like we're good. All right, Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to get right into it. Director Gabbard, last year you testified that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. Do you stand by that statement? Yes or no?
Context matters with that statement.
Yes or no?
Iran had all of the materials and capabilities to do so.
Mr. Chairman, I reclaim my time. It's an easy answer. You either stand by what you said last year or not.
It is a
And
serious question that requires the totality
Director
of the
Gabbard, I
information
reclaim my
available.
time. I reclaim my time. When President Trump was asked about your testimony, he said you were wrong. Were you lying or not?
I stand by the intelligence
Great.
community's
With that,
complete assessment.
Director Ratcliffe, when it came to the director's testimony, she said that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon last spring in Congress. And so the Supreme Leader has not authorized the nuclear weapons program. Do you agree with what she said or not? Yes or no?
The director's right here. She can speak for herself.
Oh, so I thought this was an intelligence community briefing. Let's move on. Trump also said he didn't care what you thought or said. Should he care about what you have to say when it comes to intelligence?
I continue to provide the president with the intelligence community's assessments on all matters.
So let me just kind of get this straight. The department, you said that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon last year. President Trump said he didn't care what you thought, and you were wrong. They engaged in Operation Midnight Hammer. He then says it was obliterated. We hear later reports that in open source reporting that it was only set back by a few months. Then at the beginning of this war, he said that they were weeks away. I just want to kind of get a sense of, were they weeks away of achieving a nuclear weapon? Yes or no?
Congressman, this is a serious matter, and you've made some
Yes or
very
n-
serious mischaracterizations
Yes
here.
or no? Were they weeks
and so
away?
It would be
Yes
a
or no?
disservice to you and the American people to answer this
Reclaiming
question
my time,
with a mere yes or
reclaiming
no.
my time. Were they weeks away or not? The American people need to know if this was an imminent threat or not. If they're weeks away or not. If they're months away or not. None of this dodging. Were they an imminent threat? Yesterday you said that only the president, the only person who can determine what is an imminent threat is the President of the United States. Do you stand by that statement?
Yes, I do.
Director Ratcliffe, do you agree with that assessment? That the President is the only person that can determine if something is an imminent threat or not?
The president as commander-in-chief gets to make a decision about what's an imminent threat. The intelligence
so no.
community, well, the intelligence.
Reclaim my time.
The intelligence.
Reclaim my time.
Intelligence community
Reclaim my
has provided
time.
a body
Reclaim
of intelligence
my time.
that
Here,
supports
the reason why
the decision
is that if the president can
made.
determine and ignore what you're doing, why do you guys even have a job? Why do you even advise them? So you're saying tomorrow the president of the United States can say China is an imminent threat, and then he can take his own, no matter what the intelligence says, he can take his own action. So that's what you're basically saying. Okay, let's go on. Director Gabbard, you said that North Korea has intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach the homeland. Yet, the Defense Department said that Iran was at least 10 years away from achieving an intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach the homeland. Which one is a more serious threat, North Korea or Iran?
These threats are taken within the context of the total body of intelligence reporting.
So that's, it should be, and that's my point. It's not just about having the capability of building a weapon. It's if they can actually deliver that weapon, if they have the intention of doing that. How many weeks away are they? We haven't heard that there were weeks away. We haven't heard that there were months away. But that's what we're waiting for. Imminent, to me, means is that they're mobilizing troops. They're moving things into position, artillery. They're getting ready to attack. But everything that we've heard is that this is not the case.
Gentleman's time has expired. Mr. Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here and for the work you do. It's a marvel that just 1 year of strong leadership from the White House has shifted the conversation in this room from that of appeasement and passivity from the Biden administration to that of American strength brought about by the doctrine in Venezuela and Operation Epic Fury in Iran. And it's not lost on me that as we sit here, we have one side of the dais talking a big game on threats, and yet they're unwilling to even fund our Department of Homeland Security. I want to thank President Trump's leadership in each of your efforts. Because of your efforts, Americans are safer today with two less despots to deal with. Nevertheless, there remains work to be done. While Venezuela and Iran are in decline, aggression from adversarial nations like China and Russia and near constant threats of terrorism and cyber warfare continue to persist. The Chinese Communist Party in particular remains a top adversary that routinely deals in bad faith, and this was highlighted most recently by White House Office Director of National Drug Control Policy, Sarah Carter, when she delivered recent remarks in Vienna saying, quote, "We know that China's weak export controls and lax enforcement allow its chemical industry to foster friendships with the drug cartels. At the same time, China's overly effective controls over rare earth minerals wreak havoc on legitimate industries," end quote. Of course, we're now seeing reports of a new synthetic opioid called cyclorphine that is said to be 10 times more potent than fentanyl and undetectable on fentanyl test strips. As you know, President Trump may meet with President Xi in the near future, where trade and export controls will most certainly be discussed. Director Gabbert, what is your assessment of the quality and quantity of AI compute that China can indigenously manufacture?
The majority of this question should be addressed in a closed hearing. The intelligence community's assessment is that China continues to rapidly advance its AI capability.
Do you assess that export controls on semiconductor manufacturing equipment and AI compute have been effective, slowing the development and deployment of Chinese AI?
The intelligence community's assessment is that one of the effects of those export controls is China has increased its focus on developing its own organic capability.
What do you assess would be the economic and national security impacts if the U.S. decided to loosen export controls and allow the sale of NVIDIA Blackwell GPUs or large numbers of H200s to China?
I don't believe there is an intelligence community assessment on that specific scenario.
I think that these national security implications should be weighed heavily when conducting these talks, considering that fentanyl overdoses are only down in the U.S. thanks to the President's leadership in securing our borders and taking the fight directly to the cartels in our hemisphere and not the empty words and actions of the Chinese Communist Party. Our adversaries are constantly conducting cyber operations on U.S. government and private sector networks to steal information and money or conduct disruptive cyber attacks. We've just been tracking the Chinese Typhoon actors for several years. And just last week, the Wall Street Journal reported that Salt Typhoon actors, which were responsible for targeting U.S. telecom, may have accessed sensitive FBI networks. I may have more to follow up on in the closed session. For now, I want to discuss how the overall U.S. government posture is going to change based on President Trump's cyber strategy, which was released last week. Been frustrated for some time about the unwillingness of prior administrations to decisively take action, including the use of offensive cyber operations. Director Patel, beginning with you, what can we expect from the FBI moving forward to be more aggressive on both defensive and offensive cyber activity?
Thank you, Congressman. So as you stated, the President just launched a new national security cyber strategy, and within that is what the FBI just launched 60 days ago. It's the most comprehensive cyber program we've ever put out called Winter Shield. And what we do, connecting Pillar 1 and Pillar 4 of the President's strategies, is go on offense and defense. And so what we've done already is, while we are always going after nation-state actors, we also have to engage with the private sector communities because they are going after the private sector as well. We've held 355 engagements in the last 60 days with enterprises across America to harden their networks. And as you recall, just a couple of months ago, our banking infrastructure was hit by a ransomware attack from overseas. In one weekend, the FBI disrupted and kicked off every one of those bad actors from that network, saving the American people their valued billions in those bank vaults. So this is some of the things we're doing, but we need constant engagement with the private sector.
Great. General Hartman, what efforts are underway at NSA to bolster intelligence collection and threat detection in coordination with other federal agencies to target adversary cyber operations?
Congressman, thanks.
Briefly.
Significant effort to really focus our cybersecurity director, working very closely with Director Patel and our Cybersecurity Collaboration Center, which has thousands of analyst-to-analyst relationships with private organizations across the country. We need more work not just from an offensive standpoint, but working across government and certainly working across private industry. And we're both dedicated and resourced to doing that, Congressman.
Thank you for what you do. Yield back.
Gentleman yields. Mr. Quigley.
Thank you. Lightning round, please. General, I understand tomorrow is your last day before retirement.
Yes, Congressman.
I can think of better ways to finish things for you, but we appreciate your being here. I want to respectfully ask you and each of you, if you have full-time personnel dedicated to analyzing and collecting foreign threats on the 2026 elections, and if so, just yes or no, and how many personnel we have.
Congressman, I'll get you the exact number, but certainly we have people paying attention to those threats.
Thank you.
Congressman, yes, we have an election crimes coordinator in each one of our 56 field offices and election crimes coordinators at headquarters.
Thank you.
Yes, we have personnel dedicated both to election security as well as foreign intelligence related to election influence.
Thank you.
Yes, we do as well. I don't know the numbers, but what we do collect, then we contribute to the larger IC coordination.
Thank you.
Representative Quigley, we do not, to my knowledge, have anyone at DIA on that topic.
A question again for all of you. Well, first, Director Gabbard, you've seen the reports about whether or not Russia has helped Iran in targeting in the current war in Iran. Can you confirm that, or is that something we're going to save for a closed session?
We'll save that for the closed session, sir.
But within that context, on CNBC, Steve Witkoff said on a recent call with President Trump, Russian leaders deny they were sharing this target information, shock, surprise, all that they would do that about U.S. military assets with the Iranians. Mr. Witkoff said, so you know, quote, we can take them at their word. Let's hope they're not doing this. Just from your own sense, and for many of you who have been fighting in the Cold War for a long time, a long lost sense of a Reagan doctrine, just General, it is your sense that you can take Putin at his word on anything involving military, diplomatic, or intel assessments?
Hey, Congressman, from an intelligence standpoint, we don't take anyone at their word. From a foreign standpoint, we execute intelligence operations to provide that information to decision makers.
I appreciate that. Mr. Patel, Director.
I agree with the General.
Yes, I agree. We don't take anyone at their word. And from an intelligence standpoint, we don't rely on single sources of intelligence and always look for multiple sources to confirm.
Director.
Yeah, Congressman, I actually answered this question yesterday. I don't take Putin, Xi, Kim Jong-un, Supreme Leader, any foreign adversary leader at their word. Rely on our intelligence to reflect what those adversaries are actually doing.
General.
We absolutely do not take any of those enemies at their word.
Can I get a hallelujah? Ms. Gabbard, I understand that you have to put your own personal views aside in your position, but I honestly think that the issue our grandchildren are going to be most upset about us with is climate change. So, you know your quote, and when you talked about climate change as a member, it threatens the safety and security of the planet, especially in places like Hawaii, where we are already experiencing its devastating effects. But respectfully, it's not in worldwide threats. Used to be in worldwide threats. So help me understand, who makes the final decision on what goes in here and what is a threat?
Congressman, it's a collection of the intelligence community's assessments that the National Intelligence Council and our experts there work on. This year, we've structured the annual threat assessment around the President's national security strategy to address the most tangible and direct threats to our security and our interests.
I get that part. Did you make the case that maybe climate change should be considered a worldwide threat when we are this collective process? Did you make the case with what you said not that long ago?
Yeah, once again, we focused on the most tangible and direct threats given the complexity of those threats that exist here and on the homeland and around the world.
So that's stating that that climate change isn't in any way a tangible threat now or in the future. It's basically saying we think so little of it as a threat, we don't even mention it.
I think the changing of the climate, the weather, the environment is a factor that goes into the different intelligence community assessments on effects.
Gentleman's time has expired. Ms. Tinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you so much to our briefers and for your service to our country in multiple cases for some of you, and everyone who serves in the intelligence community to give the support to everyone that's serving. I fully support President Trump's efforts through your agencies over the last 18 days. 18 days. We have to emphasize it's only been 18 days. And I think it was a courageous decision. And to the American people, I know many have recited this, but for the past 47 years, Iran has been the world's largest sponsor of terrorism. The Islamic Republic of Iran has operated with impunity. They've destabilized the Middle East, brutalized their own citizens, and have the blood of countless Americans and others on their hands. And now they're paying the price for that despotism. And I want to thank our service members and President Trump in making these difficult and stunning decisions. But it is also stunning what the Iranian people and so many in the Middle East and around the world have suffered from the regime. And I want to point out that in 2022, when Mahsa Amini was killed in the hands of the so-called morality police by the Iranian regime, it spurred, I would say, probably one of the most profound women's rights movements of our time. So many women stood up in the face of certain death, or at least imprisonment, definitely having an eye gouged out, like so many others, to stand up. And I am so grateful that these people now have an opportunity to actually have some kind of regime that would give them a chance at freedom after all these years. And I wanted to ask Director Gabbard, some of these people, and many of these people, do not seem to have access to outside information. Can you characterize what the access would be to the internet or cell phones for those in Iran who have no idea about anything and are only receiving the propaganda from the regime?
Congressman, I can expand on this in the closed setting, but I will say briefly that throughout the period of protest that we saw previously and during this ongoing conflict, the access of the Iranian people to basic things like power or internet or cell phone access is extremely limited.
So I want to ask the General, since General James, in this same vein, do you think that the internet suppression by the Iranian regime is an objective that would be protecting the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps?
Yes, ma'am. It's a TTP, and we will go into in great detail in the classified, but it's definitely a TTP to maintain control.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I look forward to that. I want to turn to the northern border, which I represent, most of the northern border with the state of New York. Across the Lake Ontario shoreline, we know that many on the foreign terror watch list. In 2024, 358 suspects were found and arrested on the northern border. Fiscal year 2025, that number has been reduced to 307. I wanted to ask Director Patel, how would you characterize the type of those types of people that you have obtained, arrested, or encountered on the northern border? Cartels, Islamic terror, organized crime. How would you characterize those people, if you can?
Thank you, Congresswoman. With the solidification and reinforcement at the southern border, the northern border has become a target of opportunity for foreign terrorist organizations, cartels, those that wish to conduct espionage activities, basically all of the above.
How would you characterize the partnership of our Canadian friends to the north and their willingness to stop these individuals, especially in the last year or so?
At the FBI, we have engaged with the RCMP and their intel services at levels never seen before to specifically focus on the fentanyl productions north of our border. The cartels have shifted their operations to produce the lethal fentanyl that kills so many Americans. So that's one example where we're focused and locked in with our partners north of the border.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. One last thing I just wanted to ask. Upstate New York is now the new home to Micron, one of the world's 3 leading memory manufacturers and the only U.S. leading memory company. Memory produced at Micron is an integral component of the GPUs used to train America's dominant frontier models. I'd love to find out, Director Ratcliffe, what would be the economic and national security implications if China were to catch up on the U.S. on memory, GPUs, critical minerals, all those things that go into everything in leading up to this, including the advent of AI?
Well, what you've seen, Congresswoman, is that when China can take advantage of things in the supply chain like critical minerals, they'll do that. This is particularly problematic in the area of all emerging technologies, and AI in particular. Obviously, whoever is dominant in the technology fields in the future will dictate the rules in the international marketplace. It would be devastating if China were ahead of us.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I yield back.
Mr. Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Patel, you had a question from Dr. Jackson about the shutdown we're in now with Homeland Security, and I believe you said that this would be harmful to America because of the threat from Iran. Is that correct? Do I recall that correctly?
Generally, yes, sir.
How many days before we invaded Iran did you know we were going to launch an invasion?
We can get into those details in a classified setting, but I work with my colleagues across the spectrum here to give me advance warning so that we can reinforce.
Was it 2 days, 3 days, a month?
It was sometime before that, sir.
Sometime before that. So you had not. With that knowledge, why did you fire at least a dozen agents in Counterintelligence Unit 12 that specializes in Iran counterintelligence, which makes us much less secure and safe with this war going on from Iranian attacks potentially against our country?
As I said earlier, Congressman, I don't work on timelines when these terminations occur. There are internal investigations conducted by the careers at the FBI that highlight unethical or inappropriate conduct, and it's up to me to make the decision. But our Iran Threats Mission Center has never been more resourced, as I've highlighted, a 43% increase in counter-espionage arrests from Iran alone, and 360 ongoing terrorism investigations with Iran-affiliated individuals.
And the people you fired, those 12 people, they were experts on Iran, were they not?
I don't believe so.
They worked in counterintelligence, did they not?
I'm taking you at your word, sir. I'm not familiar with every
You're the
single
chief
word.
director. I'm not. You should know the answer. You fired the people. Where did they work?
People were terminated for violating their ethical obligations and the high standards that
Was the
we
ethical
have.
violations that they dealt with the case of the classified documents that were found at the bathroom in Mar-a-Lago, was that the ethical issue?
As I said earlier, all those matters are pending litigation, so I'm not going to comment on them.
Director Gabbard, are you familiar with CI-12?
I'm not, Congressman.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. In the intelligence community's unclassified annual threat assessment from last year, it said, quote, Iran's large conventional forces are capable of inflicting substantial damage to an attacker, executing regional strikes, and disrupting shipping, particularly energy supplies to the Strait of Hormuz. It seems the IC was entirely correct in its assessment about Iranian retaliation in the Strait. Did the IC's assessment about the Iranian capabilities in the Straits of Hormuz change in the past year?
No, Congressman.
Does Iran still have the capability to threaten shipping in the Straits of Hormuz with missiles, mines, and small boats?
Their capabilities have been largely degraded, but yes, they still have means to threaten passage through the Strait of Hormuz.
And how long can they keep the strait closed?
Based on current events, I'd have to get an updated assessment from the intelligence community on that.
Did you have an analysis of the impact of a war on global supply chains and the price of oil and gas?
I believe that assessment may have come from the Department of Treasury or Energy.
It didn't come through your office?
It came from their element within Department of Energy or Energy.
Do you know if the president was briefed on those assessments?
I believe so, but I can't confirm.
So if he was briefed on those assessments that was a problem and the Straits of Hormuz could be shut off and that's causing a great problem in the world's economy with oil prices going up to, I think, under $120 or something a barrel and an effect on all countries' economies, why would the president not have taken actions to strengthen defense around the Strait of Hormuz?
All I can say is that the president ultimately is responsible for making the decisions based on the totality of information and intelligence that he has available to him.
The intelligence that he has available to him, that's a scary thought. Does the IC know where Iran's enriched uranium is?
The IC has high confidence that we know where it is.
And can you tell us that in classified?
We can speak more about this topic in the classified setting.
Okay. Could it be, we have methods of destroying it?
This is a conversation for a closed setting, sir.
Do you have any idea what the purpose of the Marines being sent, the units that are being sent over there, is the idea that we will put troops with boots on the ground in Iran?
ODNI and the IC is not involved in the operational planning and movements of the Department of War assets.
Thank you. I'll be very honest with you. When you made your original comments, it was kind of scary because of all the craziness that goes on in the world. I can't wait for the classified setting. Thank you.
Mr. Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's good to see some old colleagues. I'm going to start, and thank you for your service, gentlemen and ma'am. I'm going to start with General Hartman, General Adams. Do you know how many days it's been since Russia went into Ukraine? I'll answer it for you. It's 1,480. Do you know how much money the United States government has spent, the taxpayers have spent in the war in Ukraine? I'm going to round it for you. It's about $200 billion. I mean, maybe it's a lot more, maybe it's a little less. It's hard to tell around this place. To the best of your knowledge, was Russia an imminent threat to the United States when they went into Ukraine, to the best of your knowledge? Sir?
Congressman, I wasn't in this position.
I understand.
When that decision was made.
I'm saying to the best of your knowledge, I know it goes back 1,480 days, but...
So certainly I don't think it was in the best interest of the United States for
was Russia an imminent threat is what I'm asking.
Not my decision to make or advice to provide. Congress.
Okay. How about you, General Adams?
Like General Hartman, I was in a different position 4 years ago. In to make that assessment.
Yeah.
Are you? I guess can I ask you to clarify? Are you saying
was Russia going to attack the United States 1,480 days ago?
Not to my knowledge.
Yeah. All right. You recall who the president was at that time, gentlemen? I'll help you out. It was President Biden. Do you know who the Speaker of the House was at that time? The name Ms. Pelosi ring a bell? Do you recall this Congress declaring war in Russia and Ukraine 1,480 days ago, or any time between then and now? I don't either. Do you know, gentlemen, how many American service members have been killed or maimed attributed to Iran, the IRGC, their proxies, et cetera, roughly? Any idea? Could we say probably 1,000 killed, if not 10,000, over 10,000 killed and maimed? Probably a reasonable assessment. You know how many uniformed service members have been killed by Russia in the last 1,480 days? American uniformed service personnel? I'm just asking. I don't know of any, but do you know of any? It just seems to me that there's almost like a political narrative being constructed here, and I just want to, point out this. It seems like a bit of an irony. I'm going to go to the director of the FBI. It's good to see you, Mr. Patel. Crossfire Hurricane, Round River, Plasmic Echo, Arctic Frost seem to have emanated from the Counterintelligence Division of the FBI. Is that a reasonably correct assessment, generally speaking?
Generally speaking, Congressman, I want to be careful here because there are a number of ongoing investigations.
I understand. There's a filing system that prohibited, with prohibited access. Is it possible that that politicized investigation and filing system violated Sixth Amendment rights to the discovery and Congress's Article I oversight authority? Is it possible?
Without giving you a definitive answer that rests with the DOJ, let me just talk about prohibited case files real quick.
Sure.
Prohibited case files are basically files that prior directors had created to essentially hide what was going on. They do not exist in our Sentinel systems. They do not exist anywhere. And if you search for that specific case, it won't even come up, which is why I, as the first FBI director to do so, have terminated prohibited case files. And as you know, I'm wed to constitutional oversight here at Congress and have delivered 50,000 pages, which is 400% more increase than my two predecessors combined.
Director, would ensnaring individuals or organizations based solely on their political affiliations or viewpoints be a potential violation of the Fourth Amendment?
I believe so.
Have any of the personnel associated with these activities, and I understand that investigations may be ongoing, have they been removed from duty pending the outcome investigation?
Yes, many have.
Okay, moving on. I'm concerned about a lab that was found in a clandestine Chinese biolab that was found in California, and then one that was found later in
Las Vegas.
Yeah, Nevada. And I'm wondering, are you concerned about a lack of vision or imagination in agents that solely work on a case and can't see that China has the capability and the impetus to do these things all around the country and things like those things? And have you done anything about changing that training or that operational conduct of agents?
I can only speak to what I've done, and this FBI is keenly aware of it. We're the ones that figured it out, not just in Las Vegas, but places like Michigan, where we arrested multiple individuals who were pretending to be researchers at the University of Michigan while bringing in lethal pathogens and trying to steal our trade secrets and our agricultural secrets, which is national security. So this FBI is laser focused on the Chinese threat, especially related to biolabs and agricultural theft.
Appreciate the response. I'll yield the balance.
Mr. Fallon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Operation Absolute Resolve and the arrest and capture of Nicolas Maduro and his wife. It was incredibly complex. It was bold. It was unprecedented. It was a wild success. It really harkens thoughts of Raid on Entebbe 50 years ago, except this actually remarkably exceeded that in its success. It was historic, and it altered undeniably the geopolitical landscape in the United States' favor. So our military and our IC should be lauded, and I want to offer a hearty and deserved congratulations to all of you that are testifying before us today. Thank you. Director Ratcliffe, I want to just visit with you a little bit. First, I do want to take a point of personal privilege. I attended Coach Holtz's funeral Monday. He was very proud of you. How long has Iran been pursuing a nuclear weapon, Director?
Congressman, let me respond. I appreciate the kind remarks, and I also want to congratulate the people of the 4th District of Texas for getting a lot better representation than they ever did from the guy that was previously in that seat. Notwithstanding, as I talked about, a fatwa that was issued, I believe, in 2004, Iran has had a dedicated nuclear program beyond civil limits for the development of nuclear weapons. They currently possess at least 440 kilograms of highly enriched uranium at 60% weapons grade that would be capable of putting together 10 nuclear weapons.
Director, what nation state has achieved 60% enrichment and then not produced a nuclear weapon?
I'm not aware of any.
There's none. You get to 60%, there's a reason you're at 60%, because you are pursuing nuclear ambitions. So we have sanctions have been imposed in the past, and yet that pursuit continued. Their economy was teetering, the pursuit continued. Their people were suffering, the pursuit continued. Under the Bush, Obama, Trump 45, Biden now, Trump 47, that pursuit continued. Then last June, Operation Midnight Hammer. Nuclear program was dealt a significant setback. But not only that, the autocratic, illegitimate regime in Tehran witnessed firsthand that the American resolve under this administration should be taken very seriously. I want to read you a few quotes. Iran will never be permitted to build a nuclear weapon. Barack Obama, 15. The message to Iran should be loud and clear. We will never allow you to acquire a nuclear weapon. Never. Hillary Clinton. Iran will never get a nuclear weapon on my watch. Iran can never develop or acquire a nuclear weapon. Joe Biden, make no mistake, as president, I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend American forces and interests from Iran. Kamala Harris. So last June, we have Midnight Hammer. And not only did they see the resolve, they saw that we were committed to actually taking action and not just the words this time. And even after all of that, did they abandon their pursuit and their nuclear program?
They absolutely did not, Congressman. I think you point out the success of Operation Midnight Hammer is that one of the things that we assess in the intelligence community broadly is that since that operation, Iran has been unable to enrich a single kilogram of uranium to 60% since that operation. But as you correctly point out, Congressman, notwithstanding that, our intelligence is also clear that they have not lost their ambition, and that the activities to rebuild or reconstitute their nuclear facilities and centrifuges is something that the intelligence, there's a body of intelligence that I think confirms that.
Then we had 8 months of negotiations and attempted diplomacy. They proved fruitless, and yet the pursuit continued. And then, Director, and is there any intelligence or evidence that the Supreme Leader and his thug mullahs, after all that, at the beginning of this year, were going to finally stop their pursuit of their nuclear weapon in their program?
No.
So we have some folks here that are splitting hairs about imminent threat. You know what? Was it a grave threat, Director, in your opinion?
Nuclear weapons are a grave threat in the hands of religious ideologues.
60% enrichment. No nation state that achieved that hadn't produced a nuclear weapon. We can either talk about it, kick the can down the road, and let them get a nuclear weapon and get danger close to it on the precipice, or we can take action now, and this is what this administration chose to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Mr. Stubbe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every day, the brave men and women of our intelligence community, armed forces, and federal law enforcement work to protect our homeland from a constant and evolving array of threats. But since Democrats chose to shut down the Department of Homeland Security, those threats have grown more acute. Our country has already experienced 4 terrorist attacks since the shutdown began. The consequences are no longer hypothetical, they are unfolding in real time. At a moment when the global threat environment is intensifying, terrorist organizations are resurging, and adversaries continue to encourage violence against Americans. Congress should be reinforcing our defenses. Instead, Democrats have sidelined the very department responsible for keeping the homeland safe. Not a single Democrat here on this committee voted to reopen the Department of Homeland Security. That was not an accident. It was a political decision made at the expense of the safety and security of the American people. As threats to our homelands rise and our enemies grow more emboldened, this decision has weakened our defenses and replaced action with dysfunction. Each day, the threat environment worsens, and with it, the risk to the American people, which is indefensible. Do each of you agree that the reckless Democratic shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security has affected your agency's ability to detect, deter, and respond to threats against the homeland? Specifically, has it impacted intelligence sharing, operational coordination, or your capacity to prevent attacks? General Hartman.
Congressman, it hasn't had a significant impact on the foreign intelligence mission of the National Security Agency.
Director Patel.
The shutdown has had a significant impact on how we protect and defend the homeland.
Director Gabbard.
This has directly affected the intelligence elements within the Department of Homeland Security negatively.
Director Ratcliffe.
I would agree with the Director of National Intelligence.
General Adams.
No significant impact on the Defense Intelligence Agency and the foreign threat that we analyze.
So, Director Gabbard, you, in your opening statement, talked about the threats to the homeland and the changes that you've made as it relates to the border and the changes that the president has made. After 4 years of open border policies under President Biden, during which cartels and gangs expanded their operations into American cities, what specific actions has ODNI taken to disrupt these criminal cartels and networks and stop the fentanyl poisoning and murdering U.S. citizens?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. We've taken several actions to be able to get after this threat that the president made a priority. Number one being making historic shifts in intelligence collection towards addressing this threat. I believe it is the biggest shift in intelligence capabilities that we've ever seen, or certainly in a long time. The integration and cooperation between our National Counterterrorism Center with the DEA and other Department of Homeland Security elements is also unprecedented. We have taken and coordinated the collection of individuals, known and suspected terrorists, known and suspected cartel members, leaders, and inputted that into the TIDE system, which has radically increased and improved our ability to identify those who are cartel and gang members trying to enter our country and those who may already be in our country. National Counterterrorism Center has been working again in coordination with our interagency partners to get after the financial networks that these cartels and gangs rely upon to be able to continue to fund. As Director Patel has spoken about, we have national counterterrorism elements that sit within the joint terrorism task forces and support the interagency efforts to continue to get after this threat very effectively.
Thank you. Director Patel, Mr. Cohen was asking you about a recent firing of counter-espionage agents with Iranian expertise. You and the FBI are taking, will continue to take, all required steps to keep the American people safe during President Trump's historic military action against an oppressive and evil Iranian regime. Is that correct?
Absolutely, and there's 36,000 people employed at this FBI, and I reject the notion wholeheartedly that the termination of those that were weaponizing law enforcement are the only ones that can do the mission. There's a 43% increase in counterintelligence and espionage arrests just related to Iran alone, which is a record year for the FBI.
Well, and you plussed up nearly 1,000 agents in the field throughout the United States since this has occurred?
Yes, sir.
And there's a document that you posted on X, and I think that's what you have in front of you, about all of the wins and the changes that the FBI has made under your leadership and President Trump's leadership during 2025. In the little time that I have remaining, could you just highlight some of that for the American people?
Thank you. Under the Trump administration, this FBI has literally had a historic year. We have a 112% increase in violent offenders arrested last year alone, a 20% decrease in homicides, 20% decrease in robberies. We have disrupted 1,800 criminal gangs. That's a 210% increase. We've seized enough fentanyl to kill 178 million Americans. That's a 31% increase. We have gone after the most vulnerable in our society, protecting children, a 490% increase in arrests on those that prey on our children online. We have located, found, and identified 6,200 missing kids. That's a 30% increase. We have dismantled and taken down 1,700 child predators. That's a 17% increase. And those that wish to traffic our young American citizens and women, 300 human traffickers have been arrested. That's a 15% increase. And seven of the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives in the world have been apprehended in the last 13 months. To put that into perspective, there was 4 in the prior 4 years. So this FBI under President Trump is fully stocked to get after every single fight we have, and these are just some of the statistics. So I thank you for letting me highlight those.
Thank you. My time's expired.
Mr. Crenshaw.
Thank you all for being here in this marathon, two-day marathon. Appreciate y'all. I want to talk about FISA. Because we all have scars on our back from 2 years ago when we reauthorized FISA. I anticipate it being easier this time, but I still want to go over the myths that the public believes and that many members of this Congress believe. Mr. Patel, I'll focus on you here. Myth number 1 has to do with 702 versus FISA Title I. Trump was targeted with FISA 702. Is that a myth?
That's a myth. It's not true.
It's just real quick. How was President Trump targeted under Crossfire Hurricane?
Under FISA Title I, Title III authorities, information was presented to the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, a search warrant to surveil individuals associated with the Trump campaign, which was later revealed through the House Intelligence Committee's work that the information collected was not only unverified, but individuals lied in that application, individuals that were government officials.
I think it's worth pointing out that whether this process was FISA or in regular court, it was still lies told by the people trying to get the warrant. It had nothing to do with FISA. It was simply the people trying to get the warrant were lying. Okay, myth number 2. A query means that we're spying on Americans, means we're reading their inboxes, we're getting inside their text messages, all of that. Is that true?
No, I'm going to borrow General Hartman's answer. A query of 702 is pursuant to lawfully collected information of non-U.S. citizens overseas.
Right. So if you query an American citizen, are you accessing their inbox?
No.
You're just seeing if they have spoken to somebody who is a foreign intelligence officer, let's say, and you would know they've spoken to them because they would show up as part of that conversation.
In foreign intelligence collection.
In foreign intelligence collection. So if, and if you wanted to get inside their inbox, you would have to get an actual warrant under current law, right? A U.S. person.
A warrant or a subpoena process, yes, sir.
Okay. So that's a really important distinction.
Congressman, if I could just,
Sure.
but you wouldn't use FA 702 to do that?
Correct.
To get in I just want to be clear about that.
Yes, you would not. You would use your regular court process.
No authority under 702 to collect intelligence intentionally against U.S. persons.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, so when somebody, and let's say their name rhymes with, I don't know, Tucker Carlson, is claiming that the CIA is spying on him, I'm going to guess here, because I don't know, I'm going to guess that the most likely scenario is that in the process of him speaking with Iranian intelligence officials, it is incidentally collected. Nobody is spying on Tucker Carlson or his inbox, to my knowledge at least. Number 3, another myth, a warrant requirement, should it be required by law, it's for a simple query, that should be easy to get, right? What's the problem? It's easy to get a warrant. We do it all the time. Would it be easy?
In my opinion, no. But
And the reason it wouldn't be easy is because oftentimes these queries are part of a very typical analytical process, and they would not meet the judicial standards of probable cause. And I've seen many examples of this. I would love if you guys had some examples that are declassified. I've seen them in a classified session. So I guess my point is, and now that we've debunked these myths, is you put that warrant process on a simple query, you're taking away our analysts' ability to connect the dots from the outside actors, which we can collect on. They have no constitutional protections. But you're removing our ability to connect them with the inside actors, which is kind of where it matters. It's like giving up when you're right at the goal line. That makes zero sense to do, and that's exactly what this would do. I've already heard Director Ratcliffe's answer on this, but 18 months clean reauthorization, does that, I don't know where that number came from, but would you rather have it longer?
as Director Ratcliffe said, I'd like 5 or 10 years.
Okay, me too. We went over that really quickly and well. I yield back. Thank you.
Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, panel, for being with us this morning. And let me start with Director Gabbard. You've heard from Mr. Stubbe, you've heard from Admiral Jackson, you've heard from Ms. Tenney, all this aspect of who we've encountered at our borders, north and south, and during the Biden administration with the open border that has been overly discussed today at length. There's this known and suspected terrorists, and I want to congratulate the Trump administration for getting, I think, 1,300 people identified out of the country under your 13 months, so congratulations on that. But for 3 years, in both classified and unclassified sessions here, I've raised this issue that we don't have the data and we don't track it in a fused way, meaning Border Patrol, TSA, FBI and follow-up, DOJ and prosecutions. And we don't really have that at our fingertips for oversight purposes. And I asked you at last year's Worldwide Threats, would you commit to helping us achieve, as the ODNI, that fused data? You agreed, but it was only 3 days ago I got that commitment from you in writing. So let me ask you again, can you help drive that process across the bureaucracy to get that regularly provided to the intelligence committees?
Sir, thank you for the follow-up on that. We have continued to work to improve that consolidated use of systems that will better help us identify who is in our country, who are known or suspected terrorists, to include those who are members or leaders of cartels and gangs and drug traffickers. And we're continuing to pursue that, particularly with the Department of State and their screening and vetting practices, as well as the Department of Homeland Security's. I will say that there has been a drastic improvement in our own screening and vetting systems, and that coordination is occurring, but there are still some silos that need to be broken down.
Also, in follow-up to the discussion today, I heard my friend from California, Mr. Barra, assert that President Trump's action in epic fury was unconstitutional. Do you think it was unconstitutional, the decision taken by the president?
That's a legal question, sir, that I believe has been asked and answered by the White House counsel.
But don't you think in Article 2 power under the War Powers Act, the president has the right to defend American interest, allied interest?
He does.
And he can do that for 60 days. And did the president and you consult with the Gang of Eight in Congress before the president took military operations?
My understanding is the Secretary of State fulfilled that responsibility.
Yeah, I think that's clear. I don't recall President Obama, for example, declaring war for 7 months of operations in Libya. So I think there's a lot of hypocrisy here as we try to defend American interests. Mr. Klein asked you about and made a good comment, I thought, about, and he talked to Director Patel about this, on this issue of Winter Shield and doing a better job of coordinating offensive and defensive cyber here in the homeland. And I think that's another place, Director, where I think you should play an outsized role to coordinate, again, this issue of all operations. I'm very concerned that we don't have a fused, I'm going to use that word again, civil defense posture on cyber defense because we're too compartmentalized. We're too siloed between who's with the military and not with the military, who's got classifications and who doesn't. Would you work with me on trying to design a way for our governors, our private sector, the FBI to work better on countering state actors in our private sector?
Yes, sir. I would look forward to working with you on that. And we'll just comment, this would have to be done in conjunction with the Department of Homeland Security and CISA, given their statutory responsibilities. The integration and coordination with the private sector remains one of the biggest imperatives, but also in some cases challenges for folks who choose not to work with the U.S. government.
I agree. I sit on the CISA, subcommittee here, and I'm very concerned about it. And I think our whole committee's been concerned about the assessment we have on offensive cyber, so we look forward to that. Finally, Director Radcliffe, thanks for you being here, and it's wonderful to see you. Thanks for our decade of friendship. I want to say that I've traveled significantly with the chairman to Latin America, and I want to say your stations throughout the Western Hemisphere are doing an outstanding job. Would you say that we're back on track countering great power rivals in the Western Hemisphere?
I would. Thank you for the compliments for the workforce that I'm privileged to lead. And I do think the President's policies in making the Western Hemisphere a priority are really clear. Obviously, the success of Operation Absolute Resolve. It's funny, Congressman, no one's talking about Venezuela because things are going so well in Venezuela. But it really shows the commitment that the President has to taking care of business for American interests in our own hemisphere. And it's not limited to Venezuela, it's throughout Central and South America. And I think that you'll continue to see continued progress with respect to that.
Thank you, and I thank all of you for your service to your country, and I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Before we dismiss, I'm going to ask all members of the audience, all members and staff to remain seated until the witnesses have cleared, giving them an opportunity to proceed to our closed setting, which we will reconvene at 11:30 to resume in HVC 304. With that said, please remain seated until the witnesses have cleared, and this proceeding is adjourned.